All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. Today's topic is developing versus developed countries. All right. So, there's a number of different aspects to a developed country, there's a number of different aspects to a developing country. We'll go over some of the aspects for each. All right. The country I come from, United States of America, is considered a developed country. With a developed country, you had the latest gadgets, technology. Um, Many of the roads are well developed. It has a robust um, economic economics, i.e., with various different industries. Whereas the oil industry, if you're in Texas, or if it's within the tech industry, within the Silicon Valley, and other various cities within the United States. We have it all here in the United States. Much of our major cities are considered the best in the world: New York City, Miami, Los Angeles. And many of these cities are very well developed. You will not find many people living in shanty towns because of so much of the development of the homes. And for people that are in lower income economic brackets, there's even housing developments that are like five-star hotels in many countries around the world. That's exaggerating, but you get the gist. Pretty much, you won't really find any really majorly torn down homes, unless, of course, the people tear down the places themselves. All right. So, in a lot of cases, this is due to the fact that even if there is a housing development, a lot of times there's money allocated by the city for the project home to be refurbished or renovated and fixed up after a certain period of time, certain amount of years. And that's because of the tax system here in the country, and then just the our economics are so our GDP is so high, we can allocate additional funds to various aspects of our country, to include our living quarters for all different economic brackets. Contrast that to developing countries, you'll see a lot of people that living in 10 homes. They don't have a lot of the infrastructure of the buildings are not as developed. I even saw this in certain parts of Japan, such as the north part of the island in Amore, or even definitely when I go to Latin America, pretty much all throughout Latin America. You have cities that's more developed, and you have cities that's less developed. Um, but overall, normally it's still a developing country, and this whole developing category, it comes from the West, comes from the Western country. So it's all relative. It just depends on how you see things. Um, you know, a so-called developing country, to the people in all actuality, could really be developed. It just depends on how you view it. But in comparison to the many of the Western countries, the UKs of the world, France's of the world, United States of America, Canada, et cetera, many other countries are developing, especially like in various parts of the world that is south of the equator. Normally, that's what it is. The more developed countries north of the equator, the less developed countries south of the equator. And that's by design, by the way, but that's a topic for another day. However, when you're looking at developed countries, that's the biggest thing. You'll notice that it's more developed. It has it has more of many things, particularly material gains, um, uh, technology, the infrastructure of the homes, uh, cars, uh, television, et cetera, et cetera. You have much more of that in more developing countries. However, of course, as business moves on and Western expansion goes into other countries via outsourcing various Western businesses, a lot of those countries reap the rewards of that and are very developed. Even when I was in Medellin, you had basically anything you could find, let's say in the Best Buys here in America, um, there. So it varies. However, when you go out in the countryside, you'll see people are living more of a very, very, very modest living. Um, a lot of times, especially in the island countries, the electricity system won't be as developed. I mean, you saw that was most notable in places like Puerto Rico, which is ridiculous, especially since it's a U.S. territory. But there was, as later found out, a lot of corruption there. Um, you'll also find that um, they may not have as many goods and services depending on where you go, because uh, it's just hard to get the stuff there. So a lot of American products you might not find in a lot of these countries, particularly the countries I go to in Latin America, or you'll find them, but it'll be a premium charge for it that would not be if you're in the United States of America. And I find that's pretty much anywhere you go, whether it's a developing or developed country. But something to note. Also, we're comparing and contrasting development to in developing countries. The biggest thing, man, is you'll really man and woman you'll find is that there's an economic break, and a lot of the developing countries just don't have the same economics that the developed countries have, and so the aesthetics of the country in certain parts won't be as pleasing depending on the eyes that you use or the eyes that the perspective that you have. Um, but yeah, I mean those that's pretty much the general basis of what from my perspective, a development and developing country entails. Obviously, there's way, way more to it, but that's just some of the things that to be aware of when you hear those words, develop and developing country. What do you mean? Developing normally is a country that has uh, robust economic healthcare system. Also, has a lot of different business that is all encompassed in the country. In addition to that, you'll have a lot of the country will be developed, the roads, the housing, accommodations for the people, other different services will be in place, public services that may not be in other countries. Some countries they don't even have a 911 system. So, like one of the countries I go to, Central America, the better hospitals on one side of the country, the Pacific side, and on the Caribbean side, there's barely any hospitals. They have a couple clinics, but they had one in. I am thinking about Costa Rica here. They had one in Port de Limon, but it's not it has bad reviews. And then there's a couple clinics on the Caribbean side. Consequently, this is the black side. Go figure. And then on the Pacific side, where it is more of lighter skinned people, they have more robust hospital system. So, whereas here in America, it's kind of the same thing. If you go to the black community, the lower income black community, it won't have the best hospitals. Even when I was living in Maryland, when I was in Prince George's County, the so-called richest black county in the nation, I mean, the hospital system wasn't that good. The better ones was in Anne Arundel County, or you had to go to Montgomery County. Um, so there's a lot to that too. Racial politics, some would say, and then also just where money's allocated. But even with that, even with that, being America, being a developing country, even the hospitals that was in Prince George County, while they certainly couldn't compare to Montgomery County or Northern Virginia, it still was from the Doctors Hospital, which is in Prince George County, to the Hyattsville or Hyatts, the Prince George Hospital in Hyattsville. It still was much more robust than, let's say, the hospitals that I saw on the Caribbean side and read about on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. And that's because you're dealing with a developing country that, bottom line, even if it's not that much money coming to it, they still got much more money coming to it via taxes and a healthcare system that is designed to financially take better care of its people. in many ways, at least as far as resources concerned. As far as the doctor's concerned, that could be another topic. But definitely from an aesthetic standpoint, at least you have more to work with in the United States of America, based off of my experience. And most Westernized countries, or most developed countries, even when I was in Japan, when I went to wow, some, like I talked about earlier in this video, certain parts of the northern part of the island, it didn't look like it was as overly developed. But when I went to the hospitals, it was still top notch, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so yeah, normally you're just looking at the quality. You think about the quality of the service, the quality of the products that you'll have. The it'll be maybe a little bit more modern. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be better. Um, any a lot of times when it comes to service, it's all about having good customer service, being friendly and polite, and a lot of Western cities, to include United States of America, a lot of people can be rude, maybe a little bit standoffish, have much more of an individualistic mindset. I talked about this in the previous video, the individualist mindset as opposed to the nuclear family-based mindset. And let's say in Latin America, in many countries that are considered development, it may not have the most advanced products, if it's not an American company or a Western company. However, a lot of times, especially if you're in a pretty safe neighborhood, which is where I 10 out of 10 times stay at, you'll have great customer service, very professional, and that means a lot. So, um, yeah. So those are my thoughts on developing country as opposed to developed country, and things to think about when you hear those two terms. If you want to find out more information on developed and developing countries and the origins of those terms, I would definitely recommend doing further research uh, and find out more. Google's always a good tool, always an excellent tool. It's pretty much some people say the internet was given to us, but in any event, with that, you can Google search pretty much anything you're looking for and find out so much about whatever topic you're looking for. So, yeah, I recommend doing that. Till next time, take it easy.